Hi, I'm Danyl Johnson, and this is Best Thing, the podcast. Each week we interview a different guest talking about the best things in their life. They've got 5 categories, from food to travel, TV and film, music, and something random of their choice. This week's guest is an absolute legend in my eyes. He's a singer-songwriter and the most soulful person that I've ever heard sing. Yes, it is Connor Reeves, the legend. He's had 5 top 40 singles. He was also nominated for a Brit Award for Best Breakthrough Act in 1998. He also supported Whitney Houston on her European tour. Now accomplished songwriter, he's worked with artists such as Artful Dodger, Joss Stone, Joe Cocker, and the legend that is Tina Turner. He's got brand new music out, and I can't wait to interview him. Next up, Adam Harris's Fat Chicken, and then interview with Connor Reeves.
Hi guys, me Adam, the Fat Chicken, doing my fact-checking service for you. Here's one. Did Coca-Cola ever have cocaine in it? Find out at the end of the podcast.
My guest today, I can't believe it, it's Mr. Connor Reeves. How are you doing, bro?
Hey Daniel, I'm great, thanks. How are you today?
I'm good. Also, just embarrass myself by just calling you bro. Like, I don't know if we're there yet, but maybe by the end of this, it'll be fine.
Definitely. We're starting as bros. That's great. I love that. What
I
great.
kind of love that. I love that. You are like literally, you are the reason why I even decided to want to get into singing. I remember listening to your album Earthbound. I remember listening to that song and Father Son and Read My Mind. Oh my God. Like there are so many kind of remix versions that I used to listen to all the time. Literally, I am fangirling right now. I'm not sounding cool, but it's more about you. We're going to be talking No problem. We're going to be talking about your 5 best things, and we're going to be talking about food first. So when it comes to food, what are kind of your best things?
Well, it's a kind of a weird one for me, food, because I've been on this thing called a ketogenic diet for a while now, because it basically turns the fat on your body into fuel. That's the theory. But you have to be into, this is going to sound really boring, but I just go to the gym and I kind of like, especially now when we can't go to the gym, I'm like, either I'm going to do loads and loads of cardio, which I just can't, I just hate jogging because the gyms, I used to do everything in the gym and now that they're closed, I'm like, well, how can I stop turning into a fat dad since lockdown? Which is definitely happening. I'm not eating.
We're
anymore.
all thinking the same.
Oh
We're all
God.
thinking the same.
So a ketogenic diet is what I'm trying to sort of stick to, which is a high fat diet and a low carb diet. So that's kind of quite restrictive when it comes to food. So if you're a foodie, I wouldn't recommend it. But I am discovering, that you can get by without any very, very low. I mean, no bread, no rice, no pasta, no joy, basically, but no pizza, which is my favourite food. But so that's how sophisticated I am.
We always talk about food with my friends and my family, and obviously we're not going out to restaurants, and we're cooking at home more. But you went into pizza, and pizza is one of my favorite foods as well. I try and not to eat too much of it, but I do love it. Do you have like a pizza topping that you kind of go with? Do you have any favorites there?
Well, I spent some time. I mean, I discovered that the sort of the joy of pizza by spending some time in New York years ago. I lived there for a few months. I don't know how they've done it. I guess I do know how they've done it because there's so many Italian immigrants that started out in New York 100 odd years ago. So the New York pizza to me is the best pizza on planet Earth. I've been to Italy, not as good. I've had ones in London, not as good. And lately, they seem to sort of be creeping. People are sort of getting used to the idea, or not getting used to, but trying to find. It's just like massive flat, like a dustbin lid sized pizza, and you just have one slice of it, and that's it. You're done, and they kind of pick it up in their hand and they kind of curl it up, and it's the best. And I cannot find anything approaching that in London. So I tend to. The mother of my child is a really good cook, and she kind of gets it. She does this sourdough base and makes it really flat and lean and crispy, and that's the closest thing. But as soon as someone comes up with a way of importing the Italian, New York Italian pizzas to London, it's all over. I'll be just eating that the whole time. You get close to it in Bar Italia actually in London. They do a takeaway pizza there, which is pretty close, but still it's not as good. I don't know why no one's thought of doing a New York pizza in London. Cause
Maybe this is the thing that you could do, Connor. Bring it over.
yeah, kind of soul pizza. Yeah, yeah.
Maybe it's in a better way of doing it. I mean, not to say, that you should eat pizza every day, but actually, if you're only having a slice or two, instead of now we order, takeaway and we'll order a whole pizza and then we'll eat the whole pizza,
Yeah.
having a slice or two, actually, that's normally enough to fill us up, isn't it, really? I
Yeah,
sound
yeah.
boring now. Actually, I want to
No,
eat
I
the
mean,
whole pizza.
I could talk about pizza all day, Daniel. It really is my favourite food. It really is. It's like because it's a treat food now. Because I only get it,
Yeah.
very very rarely. But it's like, oh my god, when you're really hungry and it's a day off, and it's also kind of ketogenic because it's high fat. but at the same time, it's definitely a cheap food. It's definitely not on the diet. But yeah, that's bring New York pizza to London, and you will be very successsul. That's my thing. Maybe you and I can start a little pizza parlor
I'm
and
up for
just
it.
get into it. Maybe if you can
I'm
find a
definitely up
keto
for it.
pizza. Hey, we'll
I'm
talk
gonna
about
like,
that afterwards.
I know what you're talking about as well, because I've been to New York a few times and I've had that pizza and it is just amazing. Okay, here we go. There's a question that people are very divided on, which is, do you believe in pineapple on a pizza?
Oh my god, I can't believe you're asking me that. Yes, H to the L to the yes. I actually, if I'm getting it from one of these kind of takeaway delivery places, I get a veggie hot one with extra pineapple. It's not even extra pineapple, but it comes under it. No one puts that on normally. And so many places that they said like, you what? And I'm like, pineapple. You must have heard of it. They're like, you want that on the pizza? And I'm like, yes. And it's just such an amazing thing to have. I don't know. It's the sort of play of the sweet and the salt in the pizza. It just works. I love it.
It absolutely does. I'm glad that you're a Hawaiian fan. I am
Yeah.
myself, to be honest. And a lot of people say that, oh, no, 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 I don't like that. I don't like that. Is there any food, we asked this question to one of our other guests, is there any food that you don't like?
Well, I don't eat meat.
Me neither.
Oh, really? But I do eat
Yeah.
fish sometimes.
Me too.
Look at that. I
It
believe.
sounds like I'm just copying you now. It's not. I'm not. That's literally what I do. I've only been doing it for a year, but I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah, yeah. So I tried because I lived in France for a few years, a couple of years ago, and being a vegetarian in the middle of, or a pescatarian, which is obviously the official the strict term for it, but was very difficult in the middle of like the French countryside. So after, God, it must have been 20 years of being veggie. I was like, okay, this is happening. I've done my part. I've done my bit for the cause, if you like. So let me try and get back into because I really didn't want to be part of the meat industry. The meat industry 25 years ago was a very, nasty thing. I don't know even how much it's improved, but I just thought, for what it's worth, I'm going to withdraw from being part of that kind of thing and eating meat. So after 20 years or so, I was living in France, and I was like, I'm going to have to do this. I'm going to have to, because I just got so tired of like cheese, and I love cheese, but there comes a time when you don't want any more fromage as the main component of your dinner. So I was like, okay, give me some
Yeah.
pork and give me some chicken and all that. And I tried different things, and my body just rebelled. It was like no,
Yeah.
and I just couldn't eat. I couldn't eat the pork. I couldn't eat the. I mean, bacon was quite nice, but even then, it's very hard to get hold of that in rural France because it's kind of a British thing. So after just kind of trying to sort of take a few steps back into being a meat eater, my body was like, no. And I can't go back now. I can't go back. So I don't think I'm going to be eating. That's one of the foods that I won't be having probably ever again, because my body kind of has said no. It's as if you maybe evolved beyond it or something. I don't know, but the
Yeah,
texture of
probably.
it, it's like, ugh. And I was in. It sounds like I'm this really cool global traveller, but I'm not right
Yeah, keep
now.
telling me. Keep
But
telling me.
I do get a bat, and I went and did a tour in Southeast Asia. God knows how many years ago, 20 years ago maybe, and in places like Thailand and stuff, they're seriously vegetarian, to the point where you order something in this amazing sort of cafe, and what comes out, and like, vegetable stir fry, please, and it came with like what looked like and tasted like and had the same texture as meat. And I'm like, no, I said vegetarian. And they're like, it is vegetarian. And they actually brought out the packets. I had this thing that was called fake beef or fake chicken or something, and it was so real because they're so advanced because they don't eat meat in their culture that it actually had the same texture as meat. And even then, I was like, do you know what? I can't. My brain was like, no, this is real, and I'm like, it's not real. Look, I see the packet, and brain was like, no, this is real. It tastes too much. So yeah, sometimes even stuff that is like fake meat is so like meat that my body's like, no, can't have it. So I don't know where that's happened. Probably from 20 years of not eating it, and now they've got so many products that can replace. Like Quorn is really good, but if it's too much like meat, kind of freaks me out a bit. So yeah.
So we're going to say that Connor's probably best thing is, when it comes to food, is pizza from New York, and
Yeah.
doesn't mind if it's Hawaiian.
Yes, absolutely. That's definitely my answer.
You've been all over the world, so our next topic is going to be travel. Connor, we're talking travel. Are you well traveled? You sound it.
Well, only because of promotion for my album Earthbound when it came out in '97. The record company put me all over the place, which is great because we released in Europe and Southeast Asia. There seemed to be a particular sort of epicenter of Conor Reeves fans in sort of Korea and Japan and all these amazing countries like Thailand and all that. And I got to see Bali, and I got to see Bangkok and Kuala Lumpur, and it was astonishing to me, Hong Kong. And people would meet me from the plane with like garlands and film cameras. I was like, damn, am I famous here or something? And it seems I was a bit. But so I got to, I mean, I think I got like a #1 in Hong Kong with the song Earthbound.
Wow.
And there was a South Korean soap opera that used Earthbound as its theme tune, which I never got to see. But for some reason over there, they've got these amazing. It's a bit like the Irish. They have music in their blood. I mean, God, there's like Korean singers. There's this group of guys called Korean Soul, and they do this kind of carpool thing where they sing gospel music on YouTube, and it's just so inspiring and amazing. Oh, they've got a backing track on their radio, and they're going along. And because I used to be in an a cappella group, there were like 5 or 6 of us, and we used to sing in the undergrounds, completely and do the harmonies and stuff. And it was just such a great learning experience, and kind of, it was just magical kind of experience for me. So I really love harmonies, vocal harmonies. And yeah, so in Korea, a bit like Ireland, it's like music seems to be in the blood. And some of those people, there's a guy called K Will, and he did a version of my song Ordinary People in this TV studio, this band and stuff. And I was like, wow. So they really take their soul seriously out there in Southeast Asia. So that was an amazing experience to see that, and how kind of different it is to London, which is, I've never really been anywhere when I got my record deal. So it was a big eye opener. But to go back to your, right now and into sort of 2020 and my travel dreams, I found myself the other day saying to my brother, oh my God, it just dawned on me how much I miss London because of the lockdowns. And I'm like, God, it's been 10 weeks, 12 weeks, is it? And I just, it kind of creeps up on you I mean, I've always said that London is the capital of Europe, if not capital of the world. I think it's the most amazing, incredible, diverse, beautiful, brilliant city that exists. And I've seen a few now, but my God, it's like, it's almost like subliminally, I'm like, why am I feeling a bit sad? And I know obviously the coronavirus has affected everybody in loads of different ways, but I kind of was able to identify why I felt kind of down. And it's because I miss London, because so much of what my daily life was, I'd go to the gym, and I belong to a chain of gyms that have got like God knows how many gyms all over London. So I'd never go to the same one on 2 consecutive days. So then I'd go from the gym to a cafe and work on lyrics. And London cafes give really good lyrics because you get to see the world.
I bet they do.
You know what I mean? So that's part of my day. Part of my creativity when I'm songwriting, it's like the lyrics are the part of the process that take the most time. And so I'd have a different sort of backdrop or stage, if you like, to look at in different cafes. And I'd go to, Waterloo. There's a really good cafe at Waterloo called the Waterloo Cafe. originally called that. But it's really good. It's like a bit kind of like working man's kind of cafe builders go in there, but you get to see life going by. When you're writing lyrics, it's about life. So that's where I tend to do my lyrics, is in cafes. And then I'd go to another time I'd go to Spitalfields, Brick Lane, get some vintage clothes because it's really good for that, and I like my vintage stuff. And then I'd go to King's Cross another day, which is like the city of the 21st. It's like such a futuristic city. It's amazing and exciting with like Coal Drop Yard, I think it's called. It's just like all these amazing. It's like so many different kind of villages within the city, and then Jermyn Street, in Piccadilly,
Mm-hmm.
which is like
Yeah.
proper old school St James's, proper old school kind of Georgian architecture. Just all these different villages, and then get on the boat another day and go down to the Thames Clippers and go down to Greenwich, which is a whole other experience in
It
maritime
is
history.
completely.
So each of these little places would give me different views to write lyrics to, and I really miss that. I really miss being able to go to these different. You go in a tube and you come out in a different, almost like a different world. You get on the tube at Balham and come out at Notting Hill, and it's like a different city. And then you come out at King's Cross, and it's like you've just jumped 20, 30 years into the future. I mean, I just absolutely love this city, and that's the thing that almost more than spending time with family, because you can have Zoom parties and stuff with family, so you can get to physically see them and interact. But I miss being in the different villages of London. That's my travel plan, my travel dream is I'm going to have a world tour of London when this is over.
I'm definitely going to be front row. Okay, so we can easily say that the best thing about travel is London for Connor Reeves. Yeah.
That's my number one destination right now. It
Okay,
really
next
is.
we're going to be talking about film and TV. Connor, so, spending a lot of time at home, have you kind of got yourself into film and TV? You've been watching things on, streaming sites and things that you wouldn't normally watch? Because I've watched some terrible, terrible movies. I'm going to let you know. And I'm a fan of films, but I've been watching some rubbish ones. What about you? What's your TV habits like normally?
Well,
And what is it
it's
now?
going to sound weird, but I don't have a TV. I don't possess a TV. I haven't done for years. So I kind of I've been streaming for a long time and just watching sort of YouTube sort of videos and stuff. But I'm on Netflix, and so I tend to. I don't know. I was at someone's house. I don't know, before lockdown started, and they had the TV on in the background, and it's so weird when you're not watching TV for ages and then you watch TV. It feels very different to when you kind of are choosing what you watch when you watch it. And it's the adverts; they just seem. I'm like, wow! It just seems like a different world that I haven't sort of been part of for a long time. So I don't really. I don't watch TV, but I pick and choose my sort of films. And I mean, I remember being a kid when there was like just 5 channels and one TV in the house, so you didn't have much choice. Like you had to watch Coronation Street because that was mum's thing. It's like, oh Jesus, and there's nothing else to do. But you get pulled into Coronation Street in EastEnders. So as soon as I could make my own choices, I was away from all of that. But yeah, films. So I tend to watch films more than once if I love it. I watch it like 3 or 4 or 5 times, and I've watched.
I'm the same.
I've watched The Matrix at least 10 times. That's in my top 3.
Exactly the same. I mean, I have to say, it's one of those films that I feel like if you watch it now, it was brought out in 1999. It still holds up.
Yeah,
It's
so
incredible.
interesting. It's like there's a recurrent theme. I mean, my top 3 films, off the top of my head, are kind of The Matrix, Limitless, the one about that pill, Bradley Cooper,
Yeah.
and Lucy.
Yeah, Bradley Cooper, yeah.
Yeah, and Lucy, Scarlett Johansson.
Wow, yeah,
I
of
love those
course.
3 films.
They are similar.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this before, and I thought, what is it about those 3 films that are kind of, why do I like them? And there's recurrent themes. First one is like, all is not what it seems, like in The Matrix and Limitless and in Lucy. It's like all is not what it seems in The Matrix, and I think all is not what it seems in reality. That's a whole other subject, because we know that physicians will tell us, or not physicians, they're doctors. What do you call people that study physics? Anyway, smart people tell us
Yeah.
that this table that I'm sitting at is mostly empty space on a subatomic level. So all is not what it seems every day of our lives. That seems solid, but it's not actually solid. So that fascinates me, and how far that kind of reaches. So the Matrix is the idea that the reality that we interact with isn't actually the whole story. And I'm very interested in that on a kind of metaphysics, subatomic physics kind of level. And then Limitless is about human potential. This idea that if you could take a pill that just unlocks the brain, then you would become a superhero, really, a super being. And Lucy, obviously, is the same deal, where she's becoming, she unlocks 100% of her brain, so becomes this superhuman being. And I really believe that everyone walks around just the tip of the iceberg of who they really could be. And that's it's a major sort of theme running through my songwriting and I just get this sense that we are so much more than we are actually expressing. And it's about getting at that more that is kind of become a bit of a life study for me. It's like how do you get to become the full Danyl Johnson? It's like how do you be your full potential self? And those films kind of touch on that. So yeah, they're films that I watch over and over again to sort of it just keeps that, I don't know, it just keeps me excited about my own potential.
I'm going to say, actually, when it comes to your songwriting, actually, the song, we're talking about it with Adam Harris, who's on this podcast, and he said that Welcome to the Future, you were telling the future. If you look about everything that's going on right now, you listen to every single word of that song, it is still the same now. Without getting any like political or anything like that, it's you pretty much told everyone what it's going to be like, and it was.
Well, I mean, I don't claim to be a prophet or anything, but it just shows us that that song was written, I think 2000 or something, or maybe early 2000s. I can't remember. But the point is that it just shows that if it applies now, it's because it's cyclical. It's like it's some of the lyrics in that song, like today on Channel 29, the president was telling lies, and that referred to Bill Clinton. The most powerful man, inverted commas, in the free world. And apparently Americans will tell you he was a great president in many ways. But he was telling a downright lie, looking into the camera. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. It's like, but dude, you did. And it's like, you know what I mean? And it's like, and now you see Donald Trump standing there talking absolute. I'm like, is this for real? It's just astonishing the way what's going on with, he's saying stuff and then saying straight away, I didn't say that. It's like, dude, you did say that. Here's the video clip of you saying that. So it's just, it's amazing, but kind of sad that you get well, maybe not sad, maybe it's just human nature, but you get these cyclical situations. Like Virus Makes Another Strand. That lyric was referring to, I think it was SARS, or there's always a virus. There's always a new virus. There's always a leader that's not really coming from a space of integrity, but at the same time, that song, the second half of that song, talks about growing through that. This is a snapshot, and it's kind of, I don't really play that song live. I'm not planning on playing it live because it's kind of dark, and I don't really want to be the voice for what's wrong with the world. That was the stage I was going through 20 odd years ago, or 15 years ago. But it's interesting that you mentioned it, because it just shows that societies don't really change much, even though the technology changes. And 20 years ago the internet was like a baby, and now it's like this completely it's a whole universe.
It's like our God, isn't it, really, right now?
Is,
It is.
Yeah.
It is crazy. So I would say kind of your best thing about films is probably escapism. If you're going to go with the films that is kind of Matrixy, Lucy, and Limitless, but also the potential of opening up your minds and seeing how far you can come. And I think that's such a great message. Like, what is 100% of Connor Reeves, or 100% of myself? You know what I mean? And seeing how far you can push that. And I think that's really inspiring.
Yeah, absolutely. That's definitely what where I'm coming from.
Right, we're going to get on to one of my favorite topics. Yes, it is. Music. I can't wait to talk to you about it. Next up, we're going to be talking music.
Hi everyone, it's Bethia from Bethia's Beats. This week I have a band to share with you all called Céline and The Blue. They are a 5-piece, female-fronted, soul, jazz and funk band from London. They actually supported me at my first ever headline gig, which was such a memorable one for me, and it was actually their first gig, which was unreal. They actually have their own podcast as well out at the moment. It's called Out of the Blue, so you should definitely go and check that out. Their latest single is called Learn to Be Alone, which is out now. Here's a snippet of it playing in the background. To listen to the full song, it will be played at the end of the podcast, along with all of the details of their social media and where to find the song, and that will be linked below. Thank you very much, and see you next time.
Now just on my own on my phone.
Connor, I couldn't go without talking about this subject. What is your best thing to do with music? I mean, we could talk for hours, yeah, about this.
Yeah, well, I've got a really broad range of music. I mean, first of all, I just couldn't live without it. It's like oxygen to me, and the high I get from listening to great music is just kind of what I live for. And hopefully, I'm trying to give that same feeling back to people because I'm writing all the time and looking forward to releasing new stuff. But I get a buzz from things like I like voices. I like songs that are carried by really great voices. So when I was 14 or 15, one of my uncles gave me Stevie Wonder's Songs in the Key of Life, and it just changed my world. It just rocked me, and it changed. I think because of the lyrics on that album, it actually it was almost like having this uncle that was really wise and really good and rooted in a kind of serious kind of integrity and spirituality and just goodness and genius, and that really affected my development as a human being, because Stevie's philosophy about God and about good, it just kind of almost subliminally bled into my personality. And that really taught me at an early age, the power of melody, the power of lyrics, the power of the human voice. So that set me on a course that, I was already writing songs before that, but that's how massive music has been to me. It's kind of the blood. It's like the oxygen or the blood that runs through my veins. It's music. And so finding stuff that makes me get that buzz, not everything makes me get that buzz. And I think there's a big difference between kind of like almost songwriting by numbers, where, I listened to the top 20 Spotify yesterday, actually, because I love to keep my ear on what's going on. And I have to say, there was only about 3 or 4 things on that playlist that made me go, wow, that's cool. The rest of it was like, so I know what's happening now is that we've all got, music's gone so tribal that like when I was a kid, there was one chart, really. There were specialist charts, but basically, if it was in the top 10, it was probably pretty damn good. Nowadays, I'm like, you've got all these different music platforms that have got different top 10. So it's all like scattered. It's almost like the kind of Tower of Babel thing for me, really. And I'm trying to find, everyone's talking in different languages, different voices. And I'm a bit lost trying to find that buzz that I got when, growing up. But it's still out there. There's no less number of geniuses now than there ever was. It's just finding them is a little bit difficult. So I find that I kind of come across them by accident, and I discovered like Tom Misch. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's spelled M-I-S-C-H. This kind of funky guy that's like a guitarist, does kind of soulful stuff. Love it. I love Hosier. He did Take Me to Church.
He's Irish, isn't he?
Yeah. I did a cover of his Nina Cried Power, because he's saying something. I love people that are saying stuff that's more than "I love you, baby," or "I don't love you, baby." I just think, and I get it, relationships, love, and all that. But sometimes I think, well, I like to hear someone saying something a bit different to that, because it can get a little bit kind of samey. But so that's why I love Hosier. I love Kanye's Jesus is King album. I couldn't stop because I love gospel music.
Great.
And to have those two things, I know it's a bit weird. He says some weird.
No, but I think okay, anyone can say that Kanye is weird, and they just go on the little things that he does. But I also think that anyone who is a genius is probably weird. I think that he just lives among us now. And so we critique him now on all the little things he does more than actually in 100 or 200 years when we look back. Those music, that piece of music that he does and he's created for not only him but other people, will still stand tall and will still sound amazing. Everyone has edges when they can be a bit political, or they can be a bit, saying what's on their mind. But I think it's only because they're around now and we can call them out on stuff. It's, I can imagine Picasso or Da Vinci or, all these people, Tesla and stuff like that. They all had weird edges, but they still were geniuses. We can't ask them the questions. When it gets talking about your music and being in the industry and stuff like that, I mean, right at the beginning, you brought out your album Earthbound. You got like 5 top 40 singles on there, that you've had so far. You went on tour, you were nominated for a Brit, you went on tour with Whitney Houston, you've worked with Josh Stone, Joe Cocker, who literally changed my life, Tina Turner, Artful Dodger. But like all of these things, did you have a checklist when it came to music, or did you just go, I just enjoyed music and I like working with people, I don't care? Because it is a business, but I think if you stay with the music, allow the business to sort out itself. How do you feel when you've sort of looked back and you've done all that wonderful things? How does that make you feel?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I'm always chasing better. I'm always trying to become better, and I think with such heroes of mine like Prince and Stevie Wonder and Beethoven, Mozart, it just the list is huge and very, very varied. I think that what I think that that pure inspiration is what I'm looking for. It's like you get to a point in songwriting, if you're very lucky, where it feels like dictation, where it seems to come from somewhere else, somewhere higher. And I think certain people, I'm all about trying to tap into that place that's higher, because when you do that work, when you kind of channel it, it feels like you're channeling something, then you just don't know when that channeling goes out into the world, it gives people goosebumps. It changes their life. It makes them think. It heals them. And I just want to be part of that process. It's a service that I'm trying to be, to be honored to be part of that service, where you're taking something from somewhere higher and giving it back through you to everybody else. And I think that's what inspiration's all about. So in all these situations where I've worked with people, or when I'm writing songs on my own, which is what I mostly do now, that's what I'm trying to kind of facilitate that process. And I've got standards. I mean, I've kind of walked away from sessions where people are kind of going, no, that will do. When we're trying to write a song, and they'll go, no, that's good enough. I'm like, look, dude, good enough is not good enough. It's not as good as it can be. And I can tell the difference, and I can see this potential, and we haven't reached it. So I can drive people mad at people saying, this is done, this song's done. I'm like, it's not done. Look, that lyric is wrong. In fact, I had this cover, I wrote this song called Please Don't Turn Me On, which Lifford cut with Artful Dodger, and it's been remixed by Disclosure recently.
I've actually interviewed him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And that song came about.
Right? Yeah. A couple of years ago.
Yeah, and I wrote that with Mark Kill from the Artful Dodger, and it wasn't finished. It was one day's work, and I kind of, because he was down in Southampton, so we went off and get back, and I got back home and stuff, and was waiting to go back down again to do another session. And before I knew it, it was like, it's done, Lifford singing it, boo, because that was supposed to be me singing it. And then
wow.
They kind of, his record company didn't want somebody that was known to be singing it. So, but the point is, like, I still listen to that record now, and I'm like, that's not finished. That word doesn't rhyme. It's not finished. So it just drives me nuts. But I could have pulled it. But my people at the time were saying, well, you're going to get a hit out of it, so does it really matter?
And you did.
Yeah, no, it's great. But, if I'd had my way 100%, I would have gone, this is not finished. And that's why I work a lot on my own now, because, I get to decide where something's unimprovable. And, so I'm probably a pain in the butt to work with. But that's just...
Hey, I don't think there's a problem with perfection. So when it comes to best thing about music, what would you say it is? Would you say it is a person? Would you say sort of Stevie Wonder kind of was the best thing in music for you at the beginning?
Yeah, I would say Stevie, as well as, I love Chopin, massive fan of Chopin, because I studied classical piano, and I put those people, they did the same thing but just at a different time. You know, if Prince was around Mozart's time, he probably would have been a rival to Mozart, but he would have been playing,
Yep.
you know, the piano and you know all these kind of the harpsichord and orchestrating operas. He would have been doing that. So it's just, you know, the geniuses are still around like they were then, but they've just got different tools. So I would say, as far as my greatest inspiration, across the board really, because it's not just about great melodies, great production, great songs. It's the humanity in Stevie Wonder. He's the number one to me. He's my best.
There you go. Connor Reeves' best thing when it comes to music is Stevie Wonder. Next up, we're going to be talking something random, and I'm very intrigued to see what you're going to say. So, Connor Reeves, you can choose something random. I have no idea what actually, I do know what you're going to say, but I'm really excited to talk about it. What is your something random? What's the best thing that's kind of keeps you ticking over?
Well, this is definitely going to be out there. I mean, it's literally out there because it's UFOs. Or are they out there, or are they not? You know, that's the question. Because I've been looking. There's this film that I saw, I think last year, called Unacknowledged, by this guy called. Have you heard of it? It's by this guy called Dr. Stephen Greer, and it's this huge expose, in inverted commas, about the kind of UFO, you know, tracking policies of governments that's been going on for decades. And
wow.
And this guy called Dr. Stephen Greer used to work for the government or in some sort of military capacity, and he's interviewed lots and lots of people who are kind of whistleblowers on the whole government programs about disclosure of you know, all the records they've been keeping. And before this film came out, it's called Unacknowledged. Suddenly the CIA went, okay, they knew it was going to come out, and they released millions of documents. I mean, I think it was he said millions in the film, so I'm going to go with that. But saying, yes, we know that they're out there, and we don't know what they are, and here's all the records of it. So they've done a complete and utter U-turn after generations since Roswell of saying, like, there's no such thing, and it was a weather balloon that crashed. Now they're saying, actually, there is such a thing, and we kind of don't know what's going on either. So very, very interested in that. And it kind of happened without much kind of press coverage. It's like, no, wait a minute. America's just said, yeah, UFOs are real, and we don't know what's going on either. It's like, shouldn't that be like headlines? But people just went, oh right, yeah. Anyway, what's on you know, what's on the telly? So since then, he's done this other film called Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, which is where
cool name.
Which is where he's kind of encouraging kind of personal contact with these ETs. And what he's saying is that there is an agenda. There's a government, or like a sort of agenda of demonizing UFOs to make it sound like they're baddies, so that we can start hating on them, so we can then get this massive global, you know, planet Earth army, one government together to fight off the interplanetary war that might happen. And that would mean there'd be one government with one set of rules, you know, non-democratically elected government. And it's like, I mean, I don't know how far if I believe in all of this, but it's certainly very interesting that what he's saying is like, think about it. How could they possibly be a threat? Because the distances in space are just mind-boggling. And, you know, traveling at the speed of light means that it's going to take you like, ridiculous, like 100,000 years to get to the nearest star traveling at the speed of light. I probably got that wrong, but in other words, it's like that. They must have found.
We can fact check that, so don't worry. We'll find out.
I'm sure I got that wrong, but basically, it's a flipping long way.
The nearest star to our sun is Proxima Centauri. It's about 4.22 light years away, so at the speed of light we'd get there pretty quickly, just over 4 years. But we haven't figured out how to go that fast yet, so it would likely take us at least 6,300 years.
So clearly these people, or whatever they are, have found a way of getting here a lot quicker than that. So what this guy's saying is like, come on, if they were baddies, it would be game, set, and match over in an instant. It would just be a cloud of pink mist where Earth used to be. Because if they've got that much technology, if they're hundreds of thousands of years advanced, then they're clearly not baddies, are they? So it's an interesting thing to sort of, I think, over the last kind of year or so, a couple of years, that the American government, the CIA, said, yes, they're real. And it's like, wow, but we don't know what they are, they said. I think that's huge. It's huge. And it went kind of unnoticed. So moving forward, I'm just fascinated by that subject. It's like, wow. And this guy, Dr. Stephen Greer, he's got an app where he kind of tells you how to make your own contact. He said there's thousands of people are doing their own contact parties, if you like, and they're kind of meditating. And then they're sending out this kind of, I don't know, signal. It sounds nuts. But then you see these lights starting to appear and these kind of contactees.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? Is this fake? Because if it is fake, it could be faked, I'm sure. But there's some things in this footage. I'm like, how would you fake that? But yeah, just absolutely amazing. You're finding that what's really happening out there it's never reported in the mainstream. The leading edge is never crowded. There's never a crowd on the leading edge. It's like they're not going to put it in mainstream. So you have to kind of go into the sort of side roads to sort of find out these kind of things and investigate. And yes, it could all be fake. It could all be rubbish. But what if it isn't? That's my question. What if it isn't?
Oh, I've got like goosebumps just thinking about it a little bit. I do have a theory a bit on when it comes to UFOs, and I think that if there were people, I guess aliens that came to Earth, how many times would they come here? I don't think a lot. I think that I don't think that we would visit a planet multiple times unless we want to kind of take over. But also, I think that we would definitely send robots. We wouldn't really send ourselves because we might
it
not.
depends.
You know what I mean?
If you could visit and not be seen when you're visiting, maybe
That's true.
maybe you'd be visiting a lot of time. Because what seems to happen, what they're discussing is the possibility of trans-dimensional travel. So they're basically, physics tells us that there's lots of things that occupy the same field at the same time, but they're not visible. So
Wow.
if you had, it could be a different dimension right here and now, and they can pop in and out of that dimension. So they're not traveling in the sort of 20th century, or the 19th, 18th century.
They're not in a spacecraft.
No, not exactly. They're kind of popping in and out of dimensions. So that could, there's so much. Even if 99% of all these kind of stuff caught on camera is fake, that still leaves 1%. And if you look at
that's a lot.
Project Blue Book, which is what the American government put a lot of resources and time into, it's got so many cases that they couldn't, that are still left with a question mark. So even 1%, you're talking about thousands and thousands of cases. And you think about, there's this thing called the Drake equation, where these really clever people got together. I think it was in the 70s, and they worked out, they were like astrophysicists, and they worked out how many planets out there in the known universe, which is obviously a lot smaller than it is now because it was like 20 or 30 years ago, could have planets that could, have human-like life. And it was like 30,000 at that point. And so it's like, wow, 30,000, that's in the known universe, and times that by, I don't know, 1,000 now.
Infinity.
Yeah, so it's ridiculous to think that there aren't other species out there. So it's a fascinating, massive subject, but we're just taking a huge step forward in the last couple of years with the CIA saying, yes, we don't know what they are, but they definitely are. It's like, wow.
I think that's the best way of just kind of allowing people to go, oh, okay, you believe us. Okay, cool. And then we can look into it. Connor, you've been an absolute star. Can you tell us what's going on next with you? What are you doing? Obviously, may not be touring, but are you looking to do some tours, release some new music? What's going on?
Yeah, well, I'm working all the time. And you can imagine I write a lot of songs. So I've got loads sort of sitting there. And we're just trying to sort of put together an EP and then hopefully followed by an album. So that's what I'm working on, and hopefully this year even that's going to come out. And then as soon as lockdown is over, definitely getting out there and meeting people and playing for people. And I'm continuing to do covers on my YouTube channel and stuff. I like kind of reinterpreting other people's songs, and I'm just writing and just doing my thing.
And where can people find you? So you're on YouTube, you're on Instagram, Twitter. What are you on?
Yeah, and Facebook, Connor Reeves Music, and basically connorreeves.com, Connor spelled with an ER. And usually connorreeves.com is a kind of portal for all my social media things, and you can get to see what I've been up to via that.
Perfect. We'll put it on the link below as well so everyone can click into it. Connor, you're an absolute star. Thank you so much for being a guest on Best Thing. I'm definitely going to be there. And you can come and join us when we do our live version as well.
Definitely.
So thank you so much.
Love to. Thank you so much, Daniel. God bless.
It's time for the thank yous. Thank you so much to our wonderful guest, Connor Reeves. Thank you so much to Adam Harris, keeping us all fact-checked with Fact Chicken. And to Bethia Beats, bringing us the best in brand new music as always. The music in the background was written by myself, Tom Baxter, and Jimmy Lundy. The artwork was created by JMD. It would be awesome if you could like and subscribe. To finish up, we've got Bethia Beats, and her track she's choosing is by Céline The Blue, and this is Learn to Be Alone.
Hi guys, well done for getting to the end of the podcast, sitting through all that. Did Coca-Cola ever have cocaine in it? Well, yes. When launched, Coca-Cola's two key ingredients were cocaine and caffeine. The cocaine came from the coca leaf and the caffeine from the cola nut, leading to the name Coca-Cola. See you next time.